Jesse, season 4.
Yeah, it's coming
When?
when we decide, but it's coming with the inevitability of an oncoming storm of listener questions.
Is that what we're waiting for? We still need more listener questions?
We do need listener questions.
We have a lot of them already.
Yeah, but we need like two more, like just two
Whoa.
more.
We just need two more.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, listener, you know what to do. Season 4 is all about answering the creative questions that our gamer audience has. So send your questions for the Jaunty Mantis to jauntymantis@gmail.com.
Yes, please. I checked the email inbox. I am waiting to hear from you.
But keep it brief. Welcome to the Jauntymantis. This is a tabletop role-playing game podcast for creative questions from curious gamers. I have one such curious gamer here with me. That's my co-host Jesse,
That's me.
and I am your other co-host Maddie.
How you doing, Maddie?
I'm doing good. Is that your creative question for me?
That is. Thank you. We've been the Jauntymantis.
This is an easy one.
I heard something today. I'm just sharing this with you. I was listening to a different podcast because I've listened to our entire back catalog.
Great.
Because I like the sound of my own voice. I think all of our listeners can tell that about me. But yeah, so I'm listening to this System Mastery one where they review dead or old games. I've shared it with you.
Yeah.
And I was listening to this one. Do you remember Duckman?
Yeah, of course I do. Jason Alexander.
Yeah, they did an April Fool's episode that got me until like 30 minutes into the episode when I was like, let me check the date on this one. That they were reviewing a Duckman RPG
Oh my God.
and they were doing it, I think, on the fly, talking about the mechanics
Oh
for
wow.
character creation. And I was like, this is a feat. So shout out to those guys.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, I kind of want to play a Duckman RPG. And what is wrong with me? But that's not my question for today either.
Oh, okay. I was like, is the question, do you want to play a Duckman TTRPG or maybe a Leisure Suit Larry
Yeah,
TTRPG?
what edgy late 90s, mid 90s adult cartoon properties would you like to play an RPG of?
How many edgy adult cartoon properties from the 1990s are there?
I mean, I'd play a Max RPG, I'm pretty sure, if I could be the Max.
Hmm. I
There's
don't know if
there's
the
something
Max
meta
makes
about that.
sense, but it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about the head?
I mean the
Is that
alien
what it was called?
yeah, the head.
Or was it
Or
called
just
Herman's Head?
I
I don't
think
think that was animated.
Herman's head was not animated and it had Yardley Smith, voice of Lisa Simpson. It's
Mhm.
one of the it was like Inside Out, wasn't it? Like it was like Fox's sitcom version of what would become Inside Out years later, where
I guess so.
like all those characters were in Herman, the main character's head,
Hmm.
Herman's head. Is there room in the world for a Herman's head role playing game?
I would play a Herman's Head TTRPG.
But I think you're referring to the head
Okay.
from MTV's Oddities programming block,
Hmm.
which is if you're going to Google that, good luck. Good luck Googling the
I
head.
did. The Head. I Googled The Head MTV. It
Oh,
was from
okay.
Liquid Television.
Yeah, I'm glad you put MTV on there because that would have been a very, very
Oh,
different
yeah.
search.
I don't need to get put on yet another list,
Yeah.
Jesse.
An Eon Flux role playing game, perhaps?
Yeah.
I mean, this is all just Liquid Television. A Beavis and Butthead role playing game? I don't know if that was
Hmm.
adult.
Hmm. The Brothers Grunt.
I don't remember that.
What about Undergrads from 2001?
Nope.
Dr. Katz.
I know Dr. Katz.
Yeah. All
Uh,
of these. The
Clone
Critic.
High.
Didn't they bring Clone High back recently?
They did bring Clone High back. I
Wow.
watched a little bit of it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Rocco's Modern Life. C Lab 2021.
I remember that.
Yep.
Courage the Cowardly Dog. So this has been member berries with the Jaunty Mantis.
And you would play all of these TTRPGs.
I think I think it's pretty clear that I may not play it, but I would buy it. So yeah, yeah.
I would be willing to run a Mission Hill role playing game at like a Gen Con setup and just try to keep a straight face the entire time.
What do you think the rights to Mission Hill as a role-playing game costs?
I mean, you
What's
could
the
do like a
licensing on that?
knockoff version, right? Where you use like some like if there's like I love that show, but like I don't remember a lot of things from it because it did come out in 1999. I think that's the last time I watched it was like 1999, 2000, 2001 maybe, but like, you know, that role like what do you do in that role playing game? Be an awkward young adult who has a, you know.
I mean, I have, if we ever do a Patreon, I think that should be like a tier. Like
Hmm.
donate
You
this
know,
tier and we'll make the Mission Hill role-playing game. Because I already made it when I made Bridge Kids,
okay.
the honey heist hack about like being subculture punks hanging out in the artsy fartsy neighborhood of Indianapolis and getting up to mischief.
Well, this begs the question because I don't, how would you qualify a role-playing game like that? We kind of brought this up in a previous episode about like role-playing games that take place like now, right? Like normal people under normal circumstances. And when I say normal, I mean like nobody has like magic or superpowers and nobody's like an alien or a robot or a time traveler. You know what I mean? You're just playing a guy or a gal or a person. You know, what? Like you got to go to work. Like, do these role
Yeah.
playing games exist? And if so, why?
So in all seriousness, I think the honey heist mechanic of having two stats that slide up and down contrary to each other is the way to go on that, because you have like the regular Joe person stuff you have to do as one tension on your character sheet
Hmm.
versus who you want to be that you could do for the Mission Hill like game. So like when one goes up, the other goes down. What did I call them? Like in the Bridge Kids game where you're like a subculture teenager, like I was a goth kid who wore all black and had a black trench coat with an anarchy A spray painted on it.
Hmm.
And but was pretty much just a normal kid from the suburbs, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think it was like preen and pose
Hmm.
were the two stats. Like there was one for like sincerity and there was one for like being a poser. And like when one of them got too high, like I think I said, if your sincerity one gets too high, you exit play and run off to a park somewhere to sit in the rain listening to Tori Amos on your boombox,
Hmm.
which is based on real experience. I'm just going to admit that here so people don't think I'm making a dig at Tori. Um, yeah, and then the pose one is everyone, finds you out as a poser and makes fun of you and you run away in shame. So those are the two out conditions. But I think having a slider like that based off
Hmm.
Honey Heist is how you could do that. What do you think? Does that create a dramatic tension and having to do day-to-day stuff that would be fun to play?
I don't know if doing day-to-day stuff would be fun, regardless of what kind of mechanical, ingenuity you applied to it.
I mean, why do people play The Sims?
I don't know. I've never played The Sims.
Oh,
What do you
okay.
do in The Sims? I've played Sim City.
Well, and
Like,
for me, it's like been Sims 1 since I played The Sims, and there was one house in the neighborhood where
hmm.
if somebody died there, it would create a ghost. So the way I played was just try to figure out ways to get the Sims to die in that house to make ghosts of ridiculous looking characters I had made. So you'd like build a swimming pool and get them to have a pool party and then remove the ladder when they're in the pool so they can't get out. Or you'd put a whole bunch of cactuses in a room with a fireplace and then remove all the doors and just turn the fireplace on.
You know, I think I did actually play The Sims now that I think about it. I think I played it when it first came out and I installed the game. This is back in the day with discs and whatnot. And I installed the game, fired it up. I made a guy, skinny guy with long black hair named Trent. And all he did
What was that?
was
Wait, what was that a reference to? Who are you?
all he did was sit around on the couch and cry.
Yeah. Well,
And I
he
was
used to
like,
be up above it, but now he was down in it.
this, and I was like, this is too close to real life, and I took the game back and returned it,
Yeah.
and so I guess I lied. I did play maybe 30 minutes of The Sims, and I didn't understand it. That being said, I'm sure it's an awesome game. I just, you know, I don't know. Like, I don't know how that translates into a tabletop role playing game.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I remember discovering as I tried to play that game normal, like the normal way,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like trying to keep your person happy, is that there is not enough time in the day as a single person to do all the maintenance of your life things you need to be happy if you
Right.
work a full-time job. And I was like, well, that's bleak. I bet that's probably not true. And then as it turned out,
Weird.
it's very, very true. So like, is that then if we were going to do an RPG as a cautionary tale of like, this
Mm-hmm.
is what your life will be like?
Mm-hmm.
I
I
don't
th
think I would want to do that to people.
I mean, I think if you were playing a Mission Hill role-playing game, you would have like a level of stress. And when you fill up the level of stress, that's when you have like a nervous breakdown. Like,
Yeah, you
you
could put a
know,
limit break in like exalted. Uh,
yeah. And you could do things to try to like mitigate the stress. Cause like if I'm remembering the show correctly, each of the main characters has a breaking point, that they reach at some point. And so I think if you played a normal game, you'd have to have something like that. I don't know. You're like the library master here. Do you, besides what you mentioned, is like normal role playing games a thing? Is that even a genre?
I don't, I do not think it is. Now, as I say that, there's probably some,
They probably exist, but are they
yeah.
popular? Do people actually play them, outside of being some sort of weird con game that like I would run to mess with people? You know what I mean?
I mean, it's probably the tier, like, there's like 100 solo mecha pilot journaling games on itch.io. I imagine it's just the substrate
Hmm.
below that. And by the way, if you've written one of those solo mecha RPG pilot and his mech the night before they're about to die in combat games, that was not shade against you. I was commenting that that is an area where the market has really expanded. There's a lot of games in that space. I think it's kind of cool, but slice of life games about just normal people,
Hmm.
um, I don't think I've ever seen one. There's probably a Powered by the Apocalypse one out there somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean,
self-published.
what would you do? Go to work? Like
Yeah,
navigate the complex personal relationships of your boring, depressing life?
my fantasy heartbreaker is I could do D&D better, and I did it to just, like go to your shift at the Red Lobster, and like wait some tables, and then like go to a party at like a shitty apartment afterwards, and
Hmm.
like go home.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, just like poor Trent sitting there on his couch crying.
Yeah, he didn't eat. He didn't have a job as far as I know, and he was very depressed. And I was like, I think I know this guy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to be playing a computer game. I mean, like, imagine that moment, Jesse, where it's like you fire up this game everybody's talking about, and you're playing it, and your character is eerily similar to some guy you know that you've stopped talking to recently. And you're like, what did I just do? You know? So I don't know. Like, what if you, I mean, okay, so what if you did like a real world, and I mean, real world is like the original reality TV show, um, from MTV, where you're like, five strangers in a house together,
See,
um,
that could work.
and there's like drama options, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Find out what happens when things stop getting being polite or whatever the intro was. I went to a real world Chicago. I went to a protest.
Oh, beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I went to a protest and all the people there were like trying to link hands around the building to levitate it against gentrification. And I was
Sure.
like, fuck this. I left. I was like, I
Yeah.
think I was there because of a girl. No girl's worth this. This is undignified.
Yeah, I don't know how protests go now. They seem like they're a lot more important, but like back then, when we were like in our early 20s or whatever, protests were just kind of pointless. Like I
It
and
was
people did dumb shit like in the neighborhood that we lived in. I remember they kept throwing a brick through the window of that Starbucks because Starbucks moving into the neighborhood was like the end of everything for that neighborhood. I guess like you were saying, I guess that was the hallmark of gentrification.
Well, it was a protest against gentrification in Wicker Park in the year of our Lord 2001. Like, like methinks the lady doth protest too much. Too late, my friends.
Hmm.
Too late.
Hmm.
I think that was the point. Like Liz Fair had already begun hanging out with Sheryl Crow. Like it was like, yeah, no, no.
Oh,
I saw something today, speaking of Chicago and back in the day.
all right.
It was, I don't, what are they called? A carb. You ever seen one of those things that you can like put on a beer? Like it's a party thing where you can then rip the beer open and there's a carb on it. So you chug the whole beer.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, those exist, and I think they're called carbs. I don't know.
Okay.
Someone had one of those and had drilled a hole into the side of a can of Old Style and had a little bottle of Malort, like with the cap off, shoved into it and the carb ready to go. And they were just sitting on their porch, like looking at the camera, just shaking their head, like, what have I done?
Wow.
And then I sent that to someone who's like, that looks awesome. And I'm like, oh, to be young, to be young.
So true. So true.
Yeah, I don't know. Domesticity in role-playing games. Well, we've talked a little bit, I don't think on the air, but we brought it up like cozy RPGs.
Hmm. I still don't understand what that is. Listener, I once asked Jesse, what does cozy fantasy mean? And he told me, and I still don't think I understand it. But I'm,
I don't think a real life game is cozy though. Like
I mean, it would have to be, right? What is cozy fantasy? All right. Cozy fantasy is a subgenre of fantasy books that combines magical or high fantasy settings with low stakes plots and comforting mood. Cozy fantasy books often feature themes of community, relationships, and character growth and can include elements of adventure, romance, and mystery. They can also be described as light or low stakes fantasy. I mean, like, why can't you do that without the fantasy part?
because if you take out the fantasy part and it's low stakes, everyone realizes that their life isn't that important.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, uh, are we beating this to death? Like, is this, should we start over? Like, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but
Should
like,
we try and invent a horse beating to death RPG?
yes. Like, I'm just, we had a discussion about Trophy Dark and whether or not you could do that as more of like a true crime style role-playing game where you're just playing normal people and, the descent into madness is instead like trying to figure out who the killer is, with the end result being that like the killer kills you or gets away. Would it be that difficult to make a role-playing game that's like a standard murder mystery, like the movie Clue, based
Yeah,
off the
I
hit
mean,
board game?
but you see, the thing is, I think the description of cozy fantasy that you just read, I
Hmm.
think that whole idea of low stakes is the thing that makes a normal life simulator RPG not that fun.
Yeah.
Because there's low stakes. There's like
Hmm.
nothing to play for really. And if it's real life, the suspension of disbelief to have low stakes playing for your comfort and contentment in a real world setting is like
Hmm.
something that's like so impossible to suspend your disbelief for that like you couldn't even really get into the game. It
Yeah.
would have to be something based on a cartoon or something
Hmm.
like Mission Hill. Uh,
Right.
I really am curious about like I want to write send off some emails. What would it take to get the license for a Mission Hill role playing game?
Yeah, I mean, a low stakes game goes in one of two directions, right? The first direction is that whatever you're doing in this game is better than your life because you have to make it more interesting. So it's constantly reminding you of how boring and remedial and mundane your life is in comparison, because why would you play a role-playing game that simulates how boring and monotonous and routine life is? Like you
Yeah.
do that already. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I mean, the other thing is to think about like in your date, and I'm trying to run back through my whole day, and based
Mhm.
on the idea in an RPG, you only roll for success or failure if it's narratively interesting, like to have a chance of success or failure. I'm trying to think if there was a single thing that happened in my day today that if this were a role-playing game, you would have had to roll for.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm coming up with no, like maybe getting no, I got one that I had to.
Hmm.
This is like
Hmm.
I don't think this would be a fun play experience, but I succeeded by taking 10 on my roll to get Charlotte to brush her teeth.
All right.
Like that's the one where there were some stakes. That was like bedtime delayed by 30 minutes and Lottie like screaming you're the worst at me. So uh, and I succeeded on my role, as it were.
Hmm.
I don't think that's a play one. I think this one is since we've been talking about this for near 30 minutes now. Let's
Oof.
throw this back to the audience. Hey, audience, do you think there's any merit in the idea of like a slice of life, normal world RPG? Or is this a thing you're like, yeah, you guys are right, that don't do that. It wouldn't be fun.
Yeah, I don't think it works. Um I think the best case scenario for a slice of life role playing game is like Riverdale, the role playing game, or Gossip Girl, the role playing game, like something that has inherent drama in it, a sense of like danger through like a mystery and a murder and stuff like that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And that's not a
Riverdale, you
slice of my
could
life.
Riverdale, you could just like very, very lightly reskin Monster Hearts and you're there.
Hmm.
Like it's totally works. Yeah, but there's tension, there's stakes.
Yeah, for sure.
But now I'm also tempted because it's got me thinking about like the beach episode.
The
Have
beach
you watched
episode
enough
of
anime to notice the beach episode?
Oh yeah, it's a common trope in anime, the going to the beach episode or the summer vacation episode for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like even the what was the one I can't remember the name of it, but it's like one where like there's some curse on this high school class and they all keep dying in horrible ways, like one by one. And there's this girl who might be death or an angel who's in the class, just some weird kind of mute. And then they have a beach episode when they're down to like four classmates left, like
Yeah.
including the death girl, and they just all go to the beach. And I'm just like, nothing happens. They just go to the beach, they have a barbecue, they play some volleyball.
Yeah. And what was revealed? What did we learn about the characters?
Nothing. They just got to relax. Like,
See, I like the beach episode as it pertains to Avatar: The Last Airbender, you know, when Zuko and his sister and their their friends, go to the beach and we learn like so much about the characters. Like I know it's a contested episode amongst fans and in the Avatar, milieu, like the discussion online or whatever, but like I love that episode because it shows you how it shows you how like vulnerable and frail Zuko is and his sister and how his sister is like so off-putting and is like when it comes to quote unquote like normal people, she really struggles to like fit in and form relationships and it begins to build sympathy for her as a character. And that's the moment in the show where I actually started to like his sister beyond just being like a cool character, actually like feel something for her and like I said, even start to have some sympathy for her. But it and then it brings up that added question about where's their mom? What happened? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like we know what happened, right? We have an idea, but it's never shown exactly in the show. But that's what I'm saying is like that's interesting to me as far as a beach episode is concerned. But I definitely don't want to do that in a role playing game. But I kind
Oh, I
of
was,
do
well,
want to do that
you
in
know
a
what my
role playing
logical
game.
follow-up question to that was
Hmm.
going to be, can you do a beach episode in an RPG? And then I was thinking like, how would I do a beach episode in our Rifts campaign?
I mean, I do kind of want to do this in a role-playing game, but I want it to be a role-playing game with magic or a space wizard or a time-traveling alien robot or, whatever. Like, for some reason, those things have to be in place. Like, I'm interested in doing a more like in-depth exploration of who these characters are and what their relationships are. And that's like the romance genre of role playing games, right? Like not necessarily like intimate romantic relationships, but more of like romance being like your character. This is about your character, who they are as a person, how they feel, the kinds of bonds, friendships, and relationships they have with other characters in the world. But it's always set to the backdrop of something like Legend of the whatever rings, what I always blank on the name of that series. Uh um or something akin to that. And there's always like a fantasy element or a historical element. It never, takes place in the current time period. If you were like, hey, we're gonna play fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons, and there's gonna be a huge like character relationship aspect, like we're not gonna like flirt with each other. I'm not gonna make you like hit on my NPCs, but like the friendships you make are important and you're gonna have to maintain them and you're gonna have to pay attention to like the things that happen in this story. Like I'm intrigued. That seems interesting to me. And I haven't played Monster Hearts, but maybe that is a big part of playing Monster Hearts. I mean, you tell me.
Yeah, I mean the strings mechanic in Monster Hearts of because like they're teenagers in Monster Hearts, so there may be an emotional core of something real, but a lot of it's shitty and manipulative
Hmm.
uh, because teenagers. So,
Right.
um, yeah, I feel like I don't know why, and just because I'm not thinking of like romantic, like in the sense of romancing someone.
Hmm.
Um, but I really just like I kind of just want to read Pasión de las Pasiones, the telenovela
Uh-huh.
powered by the Apocalypse game. I feel like you might get some ideas for how to do that from that game.
Gotcha.
I think too, going back to Monster Hearts again, just like one of the core mechanics of that I think shout out to Avery Alder for some great design on that one is the like one of the moves, and if you've watched any of the fiction like Vampire Diaries or any of the other Dishwaki stuff based in that is turn someone on.
Hmm.
And you can do it, they say very specifically. It doesn't mean they do what you want. It doesn't mean they're going to sleep with you, but you're going to make them feel something, a little tingle um,
Hmm.
by what you do. And for straight characters, that may be deeply uncomfortable if it's someone of the same sex because you're teenagers and your body is doing weird stuff. And I'm like, that is a really, really interesting idea as a mechanic. So
Hmm.
you could, you can just describe yourself silhouetted in the moonlight or, do
Yeah.
a
Of
Jordan Catalano. Here's a confession. Do you know who Jordan Catalano is?
course I do. I'm in the Catalano generation.
Yes. So the one season of my so-called life we got, right?
Hmm.
Watching Jordan Catalano, who was played by what's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, whatever. That guy. I forget. He has a band. Morbius, the living vampire, that dude. He smoked. And he had this thing he did where when he smoked, after he would take the cigarette out, he would like slightly dab his lip with his tongue. I copied doing that as a teenager when I smoked.
Hmm.
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 Yeah, that was me trying to roll the turn someone on roll.
I think it's hilarious that we both thought of Morbius the living vampire before we thought of Jared Leto. I
Yes.
almost said the Joker. Like
The
arguably one of his
bad guy
worst
from
roles.
Blade 2020.
Like the bad guy from every movie he's ever been in.
The guy who talks like this all the time for some reason.
Yeah, yeah.
Humanity was meant for the stars.
Hmm.
God, he's creepy.
Do you think our D&D group, our current role-playing game group, could handle a romance style game? Even if it, and I'll give you a gimme. We're using fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons. We're making it easy. Like, do
No.
you think that people could sit through that? And I don't mean it as a cut against our gaming group. We have a great gaming group, very creative players. When we vibe, it's awesome, and we vibe all the time. But I think people just need to have the fantastical element in their role playing games.
Yeah,
And
I think it would be a vibe check for our group.
mhm.
Um, and I think people would try it, and I don't think they do badly, but I don't think that would be a thing that everybody would find fun.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. When
Hmm.
every, when everything on your character sheet is an attack roll or a spell you cast, I think that's what people are going to naturally want to do. Um,
I 100% think that group could handle a beach episode, though.
of course,
I think
yes.
we've done them on accident where we're just like in the inn, like talking to each other for like 2 hours of a session. So, yeah.
Have you ever played a game of like court or political intrigue? Because I have never played this style of game before.
Yes.
And
Well, I mean, Vampire LARP is
oh, right, of course.
it's all politics. It's
Yes.
all gathering information, using it, trying to manipulate people into getting in trouble. Like it's 100%. That's what that game is.
Hmm.
So yeah, I played it when I was a shitty teenager. Um, and I thought it was really, really fun. I have a Forged in the Dark game called A Court of Blades, where you
Hmm.
are courtiers in a Renaissance style Venetian city state with magic, trying to advance the agenda of your house. That I haven't played yet, but I'm curious about it, and that is designed to handle that genre really well.
Yeah. I think you could do something similar in fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons 2024, probably, although I don't know anything about that uh updated version of the game yet. But I think you could do something if like all the player characters were from the same family, right? So if you have four or five player characters, they're all siblings from the same noble house. And
Yeah,
as long as you throw in the occasional combat, I think you could do a romance style game, but it would have to be so laser focused, as opposed to what like a slice of lifestyle game where you have to build and develop relationships. You could do a court or political intrigue game, in the way that I'm describing. You just have to occasionally have them fight like an orc or something, and you're good, I think.
or like a gang of bravos in service to the you know just
Yeah.
they meet John Leguizamo with like iron heeled cowboy boots, and he's just
Yeah.
like, peace. I hate the word.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
I
Romeo
think
and
it could be done. I don't
yeah,
know if
no,
our group would be up for it, but I think it could be done.
I think it could be done too. That'd be kind of cool.
All right. Well, listener, if you think it could be done, by all means, let us know. Maybe you know of a slice of life tabletop role playing game and you're like, you idiots should be playing this. We want to know about it and they can get in touch with us. How so, Jesse?
You can reach out to us at jauntymantis@gmail.com. You can also tweet at us at Wanty, like Juan,
Hmm.
Wanty Mantis. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and Jesse really wants you to leave us a highly starred rating review,
Yeah, on
positive.
Stitcher, on Spotify, on
Ugh,
Apple,
Stitcher. Ugh.
whatever you
What is
listen.
this? 2009 Stitcher? Are you kidding me? Ugh.
Yeah, it's 2002. Didn't you hear the list of like media properties we talked about at the beginning? Like it's
Yeah.
CLAP, man. What are you making a
Wherever
necklace?
where where wherever you found this podcast, Jesse wants you to rate it highly and then leave a comment of all the mantises with an exclamation point.
Yeah, so and here's why. I'll be honest. I'm proud of what me and Maddie make because it's, you know, I can listen to it and not cringe most of the time. And I would like to share it with the world, and that's the best way to share it is to get reviews so other people see it. So if you feel like helping us out, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. And until next time, this has been the Jaunty Mantis. Get out there and play some fucking role playing games or some shit.
Yeah, some fucking slice of life shit where you don't do anything except like go to work and realize you don't have any more toothpaste.
Agree to a romantic role playing game where you're forced to hit on your friend's significant other, and then it causes a problem. I don't know.
I think that's Made, the RPG.
What is Made, the RPG?
We're trying to exit. Don't ask me now. We're trying to exit the
Damn
game.
it!